From the moment Matt Campbell first stepped onto a football field as a young assistant with more ambition than experience, there was something unmistakably different about him. His presence didn't command a room through volume or bravado, and he wasn't the type of coach who strutted with swagger or leaned heavily on theatrics. Instead, he carried a quiet sharpness, an intensity wrapped not in noise but in focus, not in ego but in purpose. Even long before he became a nationally recognized head coach, even before his name routinely surfaced in conversations about the sport's most respected leaders, there was a feeling among those who worked with him that he wasn't simply studying football. He was studying people. He was studying culture. He was studying the intricate relationship between discipline, belief, and performance. And in the quiet corners of meeting rooms and weight rooms, he was beginning to build a philosophy that would eventually redefine programs others believed were destined for mediocrity. Matt Campbell's rise is not the story of a prodigy groomed for instant stardom. It is the story of a grinder, someone who outworked circumstance, outthought adversity, and outgrew the limitations that the football world assumed were immovable. His journey began without the spotlight that so many modern coaching prodigies inherit. He didn't have a powerful last name. He didn't rise through luxury facilities, blue blood programs, or recruiting pipelines overflowing with generational talent. Instead, he built his identity in places where success had to be constructed brick by brick, where nothing was guaranteed, and where belief had to be earned, not demanded. At Mount Union, both as a player and assistant, Campbell experienced something rare in the world of football, a culture that was so deeply rooted in toughness, unity, and standards that it transformed every person who touched it. He learned that winning wasn't a product of glamour. It was a product of repetition, trust, and accountability. He learned that leadership wasn't about speeches, it was about consistency. And he learned that the foundation of greatness is not talent, but detail, the invisible work done when no one is watching. At Mount Union, he absorbed not just the mechanics of the sport, but the psychology of building a winning mindset. Those lessons did not leave him. They shaped him, and they became the pillars of everything he would build in the future. When he eventually stepped into head coaching roles, first at Toledo and later at Iowa State, he did so with a confidence that never wavered, even when the outside world questioned the ceilings of those programs. Coaches are often judged by their schemes or their records, but Campbell always understood something deeper. Programs are built through identity, and identity is built by people. So before he ever installed a playbook, before he ever drew up formations, before he ever crafted a recruiting strategy, he focused on culture. He focused on creating an environment where players felt valued, empowered, and challenged. He focused on raising standards internally rather than chasing validation externally. Toledo was his first canvas, the first place where the wider football world began to realize that this young coach with modest credentials had something truly extraordinary. The Rockets did not simply win games under Campbell. They played with discipline, urgency, and belief. They weren't the biggest or fastest team on the field most nights, but they were often the most prepared, the most connected, the most mentally tough. Campbell turned Toledo into more than a MAC contender. He turned it into a launching pad. And it was in Toledo that national eyes first began tracking him, wondering if he was destined for something much larger. But as impressive as Toledo was, nothing shaped Matt Campbell's legacy like Iowa State. When he arrived in Ames, the external expectations were, to put it bluntly, limited. The program had spent decades fighting uphill battles, battling not only opponents but perception. Many believed Iowa State would always be a stepping stone job, a place where coaches came to survive, not to elevate. But Campbell saw something different. He saw potential where others saw limitations. He saw the hunger of a fan base long deprived of success. He saw players who, if given belief and structure, could develop into far more than the outside world thought possible. And more importantly, he saw a place where culture could be built the right way, not rushed, not manufactured, not borrowed from somewhere else, but grown authentically from within. Under his leadership, Iowa State transformed from an overlooked program into one of the most respected, gritty, and admirably constructed teams in college football. Campbell didn't rely on splashy recruits or gimmicky marketing. He relied on development. He relied on honesty. He relied on teaching players to take ownership of the team and of themselves. His teams weren't built to intimidate. they were built to respond. They were teams that played their best against the best, teams that outlasted opponents by refusing to break, teams that looked adversity straight in the face and refused to blink. One of Campbell's greatest strengths is his ability to make players feel valued in a way that transcends football. He talks to them not just about assignments, but about responsibility, not just about effort, but about purpose. He challenges them to become better men, better teammates, better thinkers. And because he invests in them at that level, they invest in him with equal intensity. Players who may have been overlooked by larger programs found in Campbell someone who believed in their ceiling long before they fully understood it themselves. And in return, they played with a fire that elevated the entire program. That is why Iowa State's ascension under Campbell was not some fluke run or lucky season. It was a systematic, cultural transformation. It was a message to the football world that identity can beat talent, preparation can beat prestige, and culture can outlast chaos. Under Campbell, Iowa State became a team that the giants of college football no longer looked past, they looked out for. The program achieved historic feats, top 10 rankings, marquee wins, bowl victories, and national respect. But perhaps the most enduring achievement was the respect Campbell earned as one of the sport's most principled leaders. Throughout his rise, job offers and rumors swirled around him constantly. Programs with massive budgets, enormous stadiums, and national brands tried to lure him away. But Campbell never chased glamour. He never let external praise distort his internal compass. He remained committed to places and people who shared his values. He understood something rare in a profession defined by ambition. Not every opportunity is worth taking. Only meaningful ones are. Mack Campbell's coaching style is not built on complexity. It is built on clarity. His practices emphasize fundamentals. His rhetoric emphasizes accountability. His philosophy emphasizes connection. And in an age of flashy offenses and viral highlights, Campbell reminds the football world that the game is still won through the basics: pad level, discipline, toughness, alignment, trust. His teams reflect him: steady, determined, detail-oriented, and always ready for a fourth-quarter fight. What makes Campbell's legacy so compelling is not just what he has accomplished, but how he has accomplished it. He built programs, not shortcuts. He built trust, not hype. He built habits, not headlines. He built leaders, not followers. And in doing so, he earned a place among the most respected minds in the sport. Not because he shouted loudly, but because he worked quietly. Football is often romanticized as a sport defined by heroes: the quarterback, the running back, the star defender. But coaches like Mack Campbell remind us that the true architects of success are often the ones behind the scenes, shaping attitudes, molding mindsets, and constructing environments that allow players to become the best versions of themselves. Campbell's fingerprints are not only on the wins and trophies, but on the lives of the young men he has mentored, the communities he has uplifted, and the programs he has elevated. And yet, as remarkable as his accomplishments already are, Campbell's story still feels incomplete. Not because he has more to prove, his impact speaks for itself, but because he continues to evolve. He continues to adapt. He continues to find new ways to teach, new ways to lead, new ways to push his teams toward excellence. His career is not defined by a single peak, but by a continuous climb. A climb fueled by conviction, patience, and a relentless belief in what can be built with the right foundation. Mack Campbell represents the kind of coaching philosophy that leaves lasting marks. Marks that endure long after the final whistle, long after the season ends, long after players move on. His legacy is not just a collection of wins. It is a collection of standards. It is the legacy of a leader who taught young men that success isn't about the size of the stage. It is about the strength of the culture. It is the legacy of someone who understands that greatness is not accidental. It is intentional, earned, and sustained. And as he continues moving through his career, wherever it takes him, one truth remains certain: Mack Campbell is a builder, a believer, a transformer, a leader who proves that the most powerful changes in football come not from talent alone, but from the heart, mind, and culture behind it. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this long-form tribute, make sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss another story like this.